Hello, my pretties. My name is Timothy, though some people do call me Tim. Okay, she's clearly a hag, or at least so my players thought. Roll insight, I told them. And because only I can see insight checks, which are rolled hidden at my table, I knew that my player had rolled abominably. But he, on the other hand, was unsure, and, considering that she was a hag, however did you know? She was then able to go and victimize another poor soul, earning the undying ire of my players and setting her up to become one of my campaign's big bad evil guy villains instead of a minor footnote on session 5 or 6. Thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about 4 hidden benefits to hiding your roles in Dungeons & Dragons. Decreased metagaming, unexpected twists, increased trust, and lessened narrative breaks. First, let's talk about metagaming. It's kind of the elephant in the room in a lot of Dungeons & Dragons conversations. As I'm using the term, metagaming is when a player has information that a character does not, and they are using that information in one fashion or another. Now, note, I say they're using that information in one fashion or another, and what I don't mean is that they are only choosing to act upon that information. Sometimes choosing not to act upon that information is the choice that a player makes, and in both cases, it's metagaming by my definition. However, when dice are hidden from the players, and insight checks, investigation checks, perception checks, stealth checks, when the results of those dice are not known to the players, they don't have an opportunity to metagame because the information is just not there for them. Their player knows no more than their character. What the player knows is that my character is a rogue who's an expert at stealth and has a plus 13 modifier. The odds of me failing this check against a lowly bugbear are pathetic. I can go on with confidence and try all sorts of risky stuff because I'm good at this. Now, if he knows that he rolled a natural 1, is he still going to make those extra risky moves? Maybe, but it's a lot harder for that player to make that decision because of the metagaming situation there. Because they know meta information and they can't avoid using that information one way or the other. By withholding that information, by hiding the rolls, you're increasing the character's opportunity to make decisions based upon their character instead of based upon the arbitrary roll of a 20-sided dice. Next, let's talk about unexpected twists. In one of my campaigns, the players were trying to fool a powerful stone giant who they did not want to fight, that she was supposed to do what they said. The method by which they were trying to convince her was to ask her to wait for an answer from her god that was supposed to come on this magical artifact that night. They literally sat there for hours under her watch, surrounded by her minions, expecting to get stomped at any moment, and then at the last moment, the sorcerer subtly cast an illusion over the item and made a false coding that gave the answers they wanted to come up with instead of the answers that her god sent. That was a cool moment. The cooler moment, however, came the next session when she started out by examining the answer that was given. Disbelieving and frustrated with the answer that she received, she looked really closely, and I let my players know that I was rolling her investigation check. Investigation checks, in order to overcome the DC of an illusion, are a hidden matter at my table, and so they weren't sure whether or not she had succeeded or failed, and were listening very closely to my narration. She storms back, rises up, and starts a ranting monologue. She was super angry about the information that she received. My players panicked and started expending additional resources, stopping time and going in there to change the information physically so that they could try and convince her of the righteousness of the answer. She had failed her investigation check. She was just angry about the information that she'd received, but they didn't know that, and so it sent this wild twist, all of this additional fun as they were trying to convince her, and they eventually did convince her to believe what they desired. Of course, things still went south, and they decided to fight her later, so we got the fight as well as the cool moment. Because they didn't have the information, they made assumptions. If they had had the information that she rolled an 11 on her investigation check, then they would have just phew, and there would have been no fun twist to roll through. Because players don't always know when they succeed or when they fail, there can be drastic twists in the choices that they make as they are reliant upon the information that they actually perceive, aka what you actually tell them. Third, let's talk about increased trust. Now, it might seem like withholding information from your players is going to cause them to trust you less rather than more, but frankly, this is just not the case or my experience. As you withhold information from your players by hiding these dice rolls and then act upon it with integrity, you increase your players' opportunity to trust you. As you reveal secret doors, give out extra information, let them catch your NPCs in lies and mistakes and deceptions, have them able to investigate their way through situations that they might otherwise not have been able to work out. By hiding the roles but giving them the successes, they will come to trust you more, because integrity isn't integrity by having everything out in the open and an all-watching eye, a big brother that tells everybody what you're doing. Integrity is what you're doing when nobody's watching, or what you're doing when nobody can catch you. As you show that integrity, your players come to trust you more. Whereas if everything is out in the open, the first time you hide a dice, watch the suspicion. Give yourself the opportunity to build that reputation for integrity by hiding some roles from your players, and by doing so consistently and by responding in consistent, fair ways, your players will come to trust you more, not less. The fourth significant benefit is a lessened narrative break. When we ask our players to turn to the dice, to roll, do math, figure out an answer, and vomit it back at us, what we're doing in effect is saying, please stop role-playing and play the game. Then when you're done with the gamey portions, please go back to role-playing. That break there can be hard to bridge for some players, and also, given the metagaming aspect of the number floating around now in their mind, informing them of what their result is, even if it's at odds with what you tell them in your narration a moment later, you've got them pulled out of the game and they have to work their way back in. In social encounters, obviously the last thing we want our players to do is have themselves out of their characters and no longer in the moment. We want them engaged and we want them in there. Hidden roles facilitate this because either you as the DM are going to be physically rolling the dice at the table behind the screen using their bonuses, and they never have to really direct themselves to it at all except to say, hey, do I believe this guy? And then you narrate them out an answer. You go into the gamey mode, they stay in the roleplay mode, asking a question and waiting for the answer. Or if you're running a virtual tabletop like Foundry, like I use, then perhaps those dice rolls are automatically hidden from the player. You might be simply asking them to push a button, or you might be pushing a button for them. Either way, you're minimizing the amount of effort that they have to put in and the amount of information that they have to parse through in order to get from the I have this suspicion or I want to look for this thing back to the answer that comes to them. You want as minimal break in there as you can, and hiding the dice rolls can increase that opportunity. So if you're looking to decrease the metagaming, add unexpected twists, increase the trust at your table, and have lessened narrative breaks, hiding dice is a great option for you. As mentioned, you can do that automatically in some cases through your virtual tabletops. I use a module called Crash to automatically hide those dice for my players, or you can simply take care of that behind the screen. If you're having a hard time keeping tabs of what their bonuses are, I recommend a simple 3x5 card with the most common hidden rolls for each player, or simply ask them to give it to you off of their sheet. As you get into a habit of doing so, it's going to become easier and easier, and while it might feel awkward at first, I assure you, over time, it becomes a solid benefit to your table and something that your players will appreciate. With all that said, please remember, darlings, there's always another opinion. Just ask his wife. Please do feel free to subscribe and ring the little bell if you want to hear more. We like how it sounds, and you will too if you want to improve your game. Bye-bye for now.